Hello everyone, it's SpawnPoiint and today we're taking a look at Samsung's S95B, which is their 2022 QD-OLED. Now we know that this is one of the best and one of the most popular TVs that we've seen this year, but the question is it worth buying? Well, over the last 2 weeks I've been using this as my main TV. I've watched a few movies and played a few games, and now I'm ready to give you a more hands-on review, my honest opinion on the pros and cons. Now today's video is not sponsored, but Box very kindly loaned me this TV so I could make this review. I'll have a link to their site below if you want to check out their latest deals. Right, so the first thing that's worth talking about is the picture quality, and I'll tell you what, this is easily one of, if not the best TVs that I've seen this year. The fact that it's an OLED means the pixels are self-lit, which naturally improves the contrast and black levels more than any LCD TV. Now OLEDs aren't new, we've seen them tweaked and improved over the last 5 to 6 years and they all look great. But this isn't just a normal OLED, it's a QD-OLED, and that means it combines the self-lighting pixels of an OLED with the brightness and colours from a quantum dot TV. On paper this sounds good, but in reality you definitely notice just how much brighter this looks on screen, especially around the highlights. The colours too, they are without doubt very impressive regardless of whether I've tried movies or gaming. The first thing to note though is I am using the Filmmaker Mode. It's my go-to picture preset on almost every TV, although ISF Expert Bright is a close second when I'm using an LG TV. Now I watch a lot of HDR content, so it's great to see it does support HDR, HLG and HDR10+. So this isn't just for movies but for gaming as well, and this is where you notice the brighter highlights the most. Then of course you've got SDR content, which generally speaking I don't watch a lot, but that still looks great on this TV. Some content can look a little soft or grainy, but for me that's no different to any other TV that I've tested. Overall, the picture quality, the detail, the resolution, contrast and colours look awesome on this TV. It's far brighter than any other OLED that I've tested in the last year. Now when it comes to movies, you want to make the most of the Filmmaker Mode, which is supported on the S95B. This gives you the option to watch the movie the way the director intended. Now although HDR is supported, it's really disappointing to see that Dolby Vision is not. I was surprised by this when testing, but I have confirmed this online that it's not supported. Whether this can be retrospectively added via an update, I'm not too sure, but I guess if we don't see it on this model, we will probably see it on the next one. As for the size, well the one that I have here is the 65-inch version, but it's also available in a 55-inch version as well. That means if you did want to go for a large screen OLED like we see from the LG OLEDs, where you could go up to 77 or even 83 inches, you won't have that choice here. But for general movie watching, the QD and the OLED combo is really outstanding, and it gives a near perfect viewing experience with impressive detail. And it's not just watching movies that's impressive, it's the gaming features that make this TV a great all-rounder. So with more and more of us gaming on our TVs, whether that's on the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X or Switch, there's a good chance if you're using the S95B, you might be wanting to hook up a console as well. So firstly, there are 4 HDMI 2.1 ports. That means if you wanted to connect the PS5 to it, you're going to be getting 4K 120Hz gaming support. We've seen this on a lot of TVs this year, but it's still great to see it included. On top of that, it does support ALLM, or the Auto Low Latency mode, as well as VRR, the variable refresh rate. This means if you are playing on the PS5 or Xbox Series X or S, you're able to take advantage of the variable rate rather than a locked frame rate. This will naturally mean a smoother gameplay, resulting in little to no stuttering or screen tearing. This is also helped by the FreeSync and G-Sync support. It's almost as good as some of the other OLED TVs that we've seen in the last year, but the motion isn't quite as smooth as I would like it to be. But playing games at 120Hz never gets old, especially on a TV that looks as nice as this. My go-to game is always a Call of Duty just because of how fast-paced it is. It's a great way to test out the frame rate as well as the motion handling. Now there's always a weird assumption that playing FPS or any competitive or fast-paced games on a TV is a bad idea, but this TV is fast. Depending on the mode or resolution you're in, it's possible to achieve anywhere from 6 milliseconds to a 10 millisecond input lag. That is rapid for a monitor, let alone a TV. And if you wanted to keep track of the frame rate or tweak the gaming settings, well, Samsung have their own game bar. To access this menu, you just need to press the play and pause button on the remote. It's very similar to LG's Game Optimizer mode, and this shows you all the information in one place, things like the picture profiles, frame rate, and the aspect ratio controller. This actually lets you change the ratio to 21:9 or 32:9 at a press of a button. This is aimed at PC gaming, so it's not something I can test out unfortunately, but the fact that you can hook up a gaming PC or laptop and run it at a wider resolution is awesome. On top of that, if you'd rather not plug a console or PC in, well, Samsung have their own gaming hub and allows you to play and stream games directly to the TV. You need to sign in with your Game Pass or Stream account and then you can play the games directly using your own controller. Right, let me talk to you about the viewing angles and the reflections on this TV. It's not something that's often talked about or even considered when buying TVs, but it is really important, especially if you're watching it during the day or in a bright room. Fortunately, as this TV combines both the quantum dot and OLED, the viewing angles are brilliant. I know most people will probably watch their TV straight on, but it's always worth checking these things out just in case you plan on having your seating off center. And this is one of the biggest selling points of an OLED. You can practically see the screen from any angle within your room, and you're not going to lose any contrast or picture quality. And this leads us on to reflections. So this is the same with most OLEDs, but the screens are typically glossy to allow us to have that awesome contrast and black levels. But it also means it's very reflective. But the fact that the S95B has a very dark mirror-like coating, it means the reflections are kept low. And this is by far the best I've ever seen on an OLED. You can see here as I turn, you can obviously still see the window in the reflection of the TV, but it's nowhere near as distracting as a typical OLED. And if you pair that with a brighter screen from the quantum dot technology, unless you're in a really dark scene and watching it during the day, you're not really going to see many reflections. Now, it's too early for me to really talk about burn-in or image retention, as using it for just 2 weeks isn't a fair test. But what I can say is from my experience with OLED TVs, I've never had an issue, and that includes thousands of hours of gaming across multiple TVs in my house. Obviously, QD-OLED is new compared to OLED, but it's supposedly better at managing burn-in. But I guess only time will tell, and if you are buying into the S95B, you are one of the early adopters, so you will find out first. So the speakers and sound quality have really surprised me. Seeing how slim the frame is, you'd naturally think this is going to sound like every other ultra-thin OLED, but that's not the case with this one. They are clear, punchy, and have more bass than I was expecting to hear. In fact, over the last 2 weeks, I've exclusively used the TV speakers, as my AVR isn't yet set up to use my external speakers, and I've had no complaints at all. Now, looking through the Samsung website, I couldn't see any information about what speakers are actually fitted, but take a listen to this and see what you think.
Cutting edge VR, Flint. Folks want me to beta test it for a load of money too. Just lay back, close your eyes. Count back from 10.
And then looking at the design and the overall appearance of the S95B, I personally think it looks awesome. The thin frame, the borderless bezel, and even the stand all look different yet familiar. To me, it kind of resembles a massive monitor, especially with the height of the stand. But it is worth mentioning that I did notice a very slight bend in the panel. It's hard to capture this on screen, so I'm not sure if you're able to see it, but there is definitely a bend in the middle. I'm not sure if this is because the panel is incredibly thin or there's a quality control issue, and whether others would have even noticed it unless you went looking for it, but it is definitely there. So the menus and home screen are all running on the latest Tizen operating system. This is the first I've ever used this operating system, and my first impressions last week were great. It looks nice, it's user friendly, and it's pretty intuitive. But having used it for longer than a few hours now, I have noticed how slow, laggy, and buggy it can be. I've tried updating it, resetting it, and after a while it just slows down completely. Navigating through apps or even just pressing the home button seems to be so sluggish, and the number of times that Netflix either doesn't load at all or crashes, I've just lost count. Now, if you were going to use the TV with another device like a console, Apple TV or Amazon Stick, well, you'd probably be fine. But personally, I could not use this operating system every single day without being frustrated, which is a real shame because it actually looks quite nice. I know in the comments of my last video, people had mentioned about keeping this TV offline to prevent the updates. It's something that I could do, but the truth is having to keep your TV offline just to make sure there's no future issues isn't really a good start. There are some other features worth mentioning too, such as the fact that it comes with Google Assistant, Alexa and AirPlay built in. From my testing, I've been able to use my voice to search and play for movies, as well as mirror or AirPlay my iPhone and MacBook straight to the TV. There is a slight delay when using it this way, but if you wanted a cable-free way to show off your photos or what's on your screen, well, it works pretty well. I also showed these wallpapers during my unboxing video last week, and loads of you asked where I got it from. Well, this is actually built into the TV. It's called Samsung's Ambient Mode Plus, and that allows you to play a selection of animated wallpapers along with the sound. I think this is a really nice feature and is a lot nicer than the static wallpapers that we've seen on other TVs. So before I get into my final thoughts, these are the areas that I think need improving on the S95B. Well, first of all, the UI and the menus definitely need optimizing. They are far too slow and laggy, and if it's something you're using every day, it's not really a nice experience. And the fact that Dolby Vision isn't supported is a real shame. If it's something that you've used on other TVs, you'll realize just how much you'll miss it. Maybe Samsung can provide this as an over-the-air update, but I guess only time will tell, but the chances are they probably wouldn't. And finally, the build quality or the quality control. Obviously my TV is slightly bent, it doesn't mean every single one is, but reading some of the comments from you last week, it's implied that a few of you have had the same problem. And as for the costs, well obviously this varies depending on your location and the offers, but the 55-inch is currently around £1,400 or $1,500, while the 65-inch is around £2,200 or $2,000. That is a lot cheaper than when they first launched earlier this year. Comparing this to other OLEDs at a similar size, the S95B is competitively priced at these discounted rates. At the full price, it's tough to justify the cost, but you are getting a brighter screen with incredible colours and that combo of OLED and quantum dot. But the question is it worth buying? Well, the S95B does an incredible job of combining the pros of an OLED, such as the black levels, contrast ratio and viewing angles, with the pros of a quantum dot TV, including more accurate colours and brightness. Now, if you are wanting the latest tech or want to be an early adopter of something, the S95B is hard to pass on, plus you're not going to be disappointed with the image quality. However, if you want a snappy UI and you need Dolby Vision support, well, you're not going to be happy with this model. But from a picture quality alone point of view, this TV is awesome. So if you ask me would I buy one, I would say you're probably better off waiting for the 2023 QD-OLEDs. It can only get better from here, and if you're spending this kind of money on a TV, you're likely going to keep it for the next 2 to 3 years. So buying the first generation isn't always the best idea. Well, next week I'll be unboxing the Sony A95K, which is another QD-OLED TV. Then I will actually be comparing the Samsung to the Sony to see which one I think is better. Now, if you drop a QD-OLED in the comments, I will give you a thumbs up for staying right till the end. And if you did enjoy today's video, check out my 15 gift ideas for gamers, as it covers some of the last minute deals if you're still looking for gifts. Thanks for watching, please like, sub and follow me on Instagram and Twitter. Until next time.